Oh my gosh, I can't believe we did that. Honestly, like, Josh, you're with me, right? Like, I was thinking that was going to be a TPK back there.
I'm going to lie here for a bit. Just roll me near the fire.
Yeah, are you at, I know that we're not supposed to metagame here, but I feel like you're looking like you're at 1 hit point right now.
Like, if my entire lifespan was of 59 hit points, I'm probably at about a 2.
Oh, Neal, you look like you're doing all right. You want to start up that fire right there? Get us some warmth?
Yes, thankfully we have cantrips for this.
Thank goodness. Matt, you better get around the fire, man. You're looking like you need some warmth. Did you take any cold damage back there?
I took a little bit of cold damage. I was hit by a cone of cold multiple times, but
that causes brain freeze.
It causes brain freeze, but it turns out that I raged for an entire year. Actually, I probably started raging in March and I never stopped. So I've been taking half damage the entire time.
Yeah, that was a crazy, but we did it, guys. We beat 2020 with the help of all of our allies. We were able to defeat the beast and conquer it. That said, I know that we also lost Chris back there. He's dead. Did anybody pick up anything that we can use to resurrect him?
I think I got an ear.
All right. Neal, will that work as our cleric?
Yeah, I hope it's his.
Well, I mean, I think, Neal, you're a pretty high-level cleric. You could do a true resurrection, can't you?
On someone's ear.
Someone's ear?
And if it's not Chris, it'll be fine.
Don't forget about Kurt. Oh, my goodness.
Did anybody pick up anything from Kurt?
No, probably some bad dad jokes or something like that, but anything that we could actually use to resurrect him.
Will that work, Neal?
That's how we summon him.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Very good.
Kurt just went back to his own plane. We'll just summon him with the proper dad joke.
We have to make a circle of New Balance shoes.
We didn't know he was Fey in origin, so actually, like, when you defeat him, he just returns back to his home plane and his body reconstitutes at some indiscriminate point in time.
Now, the 2020 didn't drop as many stimulus checks as I was expecting. So as far as, like, paying for this resurrection, are we going to have to use that spell where Chris might come back as an orc or something like that?
Yeah, it'll be fine.
The reincarnation spell? But you're not a druid, are you? Or did you take a few levels in druid?
Oh, no, I did it because I think it's hilarious.
Oh, okay. Definitely.
Spin that wonderful
because I want
wheel.
I want to be a wizard and I also want to turn into a bear.
Well, guys, I mean, after defeating 2020, I think it's clear that we're going to have to set here by the fire. Good fire, by the way, Neal. It's very warm, very comfy, and we're going to have a long rest after that. We don't know what's ahead. 2021 could be friend or it could be foe. I can't imagine a higher challenge rating than 2020, but we don't know.
No, but I'm really happy about the experience that I gained. I'm pretty sure that I've leveled up at least 2 or 3 levels, and I'm looking forward to taking some new feats, that type of thing like that, gaining access to some new spells. So, you know what? There are positives that have come from this very, very strange year.
I think you're right. Maybe we should, before we rest, have a little bit of time of reflection. Maybe ask each other some questions about this long battle against 2020 and ring in this new year as we prepare to go forward as a group of adventurers. Does anybody have any questions to start us out here as we reflect back?
Well, I just wanted to point out, I think this is a great idea because we are here. We're a network. You're our bosses, as we usually like to point out.
I do not think that is the case.
We were brought to the Block Party Podcast Network. Josh and I were just 2 wandering, penniless podcasters, the Ronins of podcasters.
We're still penniless, Matt.
We're still penniless, but we do feel like we have a home here. And while we are a network of different podcasters and podcasts, we don't usually come down or come around and just sit together and reflect on things, talk, that type of thing like that. So I think it's good that we can sit by this fire and really reflect on this 2020 year and like ask some questions.
Agreed. Matt, that was a great speech. You clearly have leveled up. Now, do you have a question for us?
I do. So, well, if I do a history check, which is actually not how you run history checks at D&D, but rolling a D20. Oh, I do recall that you all have traditionally held some sort of episode where you have 12 questions of Christmas. And even though it's not specifically Christmas right now, I thought maybe as we are recovering here around this fire, maybe we could channel the essence of the 12 questions of Christmas. And maybe we do the 12 questions of 2020, the new year, that type of thing.
I love it.
And since I guess I'm just bossy, I'm going to start off with my first question.
Yeah, who's the boss here?
No, I'm not the boss. I'm just bossy. So my first question is this. If you could know and use one cantrip, what would it be?
All right, Matt, as you're asking this question, I want to ask a clarifying question. Are you asking about a cantrip that, like, after learning from the year 2020, we wish we had the ability to use this cantrip this past year?
Yes.
All right.
Spin it that way.
My answer then is guidance, the cantrip guidance, because I think we could have all used the cantrip of guidance over the year 2020, and maybe that's something I can add to my repertoire for 2021.
It's so universal. It's nice to add that little D4 there, and it's free, so you could ask for as much guidance as you want. Josh, what about you? What cantrip do you wish you would have known during 2020, or which cantrip, I guess, did you learn as a result of 2020?
Oh, Matt, I would have to probably say mending. And if I could, like, use that in some kind of technology field, such as, like, Google Classroom or Schoology, or many of the things that my students, like, email me, like, right before class saying, it's not working. If I could be like, I'm going to cast men on the internet and fix this, would be, like, super awesome. Because we were on it. Like, I think all of us have been on that, like, a ton, especially in 2020.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mend that connecting issue that you sometimes see within a Zoom meeting.
Yep, that'd be my go-to.
Yeah, that was a horrifying moment when we were fighting 2020, and 2020 cast that spell of online schooling. I think I saw all of the kids and the teachers just drop to their knees wailing in that moment.
Well, the hard part about 2020 is we kept trying to stay 6 feet away from it, and it kept trying to get closer and closer to us.
Yeah, it definitely was able to move to adjacent spot. It's like it had Misty Step or something, and all of a sudden, boo! Ah.
Primal savagery. No.
Yeah, what about you, Neal? What did you learn?
No, primal savagery, where my teeth and my fingernails sharpened to deliver a corrosive attack. That sounds right. No,
I mean, that would help
one of
people
the ones,
keep that 6 feet distance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The druid craft, I think, would be the one to go with. It's just brighten your day a little bit.
Add a little bit of flowers.
Yeah. So druid craft is my choice.
Oh man, that would have been really helpful while we were all having to stay inside. Just like create the outdoors inside.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Matt, you asked this question, so I'm excited for your very wise answer. Here, let me cast the guidance cantrip on you so that your answer comes out well.
Okay, my answer to this is probably my favorite cantrip, even though it's not that good, Shillelagh. Because I think when you're walking around, sometimes you just need a big old Irish magic stick to fend things off with. So if 2021 is getting any ideas, cast Shillelagh, keep that thing at bay.
And let's be honest, it's also the funnest cantrip to just say the name of.
It is just totally a fun cantrip. And that's like a name, you can't make up a name, because sometimes I feel like when people are trying to come up with a name like of a new monster, it's always like, Dragon Dorn. But like Shillelagh, I don't know where that word came from. Probably Ireland, but it is a fantastic sounding name that I know I could never make up. So who's up next? Who has a question?
I've got a question for you guys. You talked about the spirit of our 12 questions of Christmas. And so this one comes right from that in the past that I felt like we couldn't leave behind. What 2020 movie or TV show was the best inspiration for you for a D&D campaign? What do you guys think?
I believe everybody saw that Ripley Scott jumped into a new HBO series called Raised by Wolves.
I was thinking about this one.
Yeah, checked it out. Definitely had like the alien flavors and stuff like that. But then you got androids and like off to a planet and crazy backstory and lots of lore and a mystery. Like I was watching that and I was just like, my goodness, I could totally rip this off as just a D&D campaign. I mean, it's great. It's got everything. So that would be what I would like throw out on there.
It's got a great inspiration, I feel like, if you want to make clerics into villains. It is a fantastic route to get inspiration for that.
So definitely has the Eberron feel to it.
How about you, Matt?
Well, I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction. It's called Holiday Baking Championship. So I don't know if you know the premise of the show, but there are a variety of different bakers that enter into this competition. Nope, I love this because
it's a cantrip. You can cast it as
I know,
many
I
times
missed
as
my
you want.
opportunity.
But I think technically you have to be able to touch me. So like with social distancing rules and the fact that we're doing this over Zoom,
you've been
it
waving
doesn't
that
work.
shillelagh at us this entire time we've been sitting down at this campfire.
No, I love Holiday Baking Championship. I love cooking show contests. And one of the new campaigns that I started in 2020 was an online Zoom game with my OG group of D&D players, which includes Josh. And the theme for this campaign is chefs. And each of the characters happens to be a chef within Waterdeep. And they're all struggling as chefs. And the theme of the campaign is they have 1 year to accumulate recipes, food, spices, different techniques, so that when they get to the food contest, like I guess what we call the food contest, back in Waterdeep, the annual culinary cuisine contest, that they will be able to actually make a valid, strong attempt, and hopefully by winning it, then they will gain fame and notoriety, and they'll be able to establish themselves within the culinary scene within Waterdeep. So there's a balance between like how often you have battles, but then there's also this aspect like, well, you're chefs, so how do you run a chef battle? So I've actually modeled a lot of these chef scenes within this campaign around the Holiday Baking Championship. So there's judges, there's different rounds, there's twists in the rounds. So for me, that has been my best inspiration of 2020.
That's fantastic.
And it's been super fun to play it.
That should be turned into an actual play.
It would be if it didn't take too much time to edit the podcast.
All right, Neal, what are your thoughts on that question?
So the one that I would want to say is that I just watched too much Naruto, but because I realized when I was thinking about this question that I'm on episode 222 of the second series.
So this is Shippuden.
Yeah, so I'm at 222 of Shippuden, but I skipped all the filler, and you should too. But no, the one that I thought of, because I watched it probably most recently, is Wonder Woman 84. It's super D&D campaign. There's a MacGuffin through the whole thing that basically came out of an archaeological dig. It's doing enough. I don't want to say much more about it, but watch it with the idea of D&D, and there are constant D&D type themes through the whole thing.
It certainly has the rule of cool hand wave away the logic aspect throughout the movie. But that's all I'll say about that.
Wishes!
Man,
Well,
I can't believe we just got... I for sure thought somebody would say The Mandalorian, so I stayed clear of that as an answer. So I'll just give that as my runner-up answer because I thought somebody else would say it. But speaking of HBO, the second season of His Dark Materials came out.
Yes, definitely.
And I have not heard a lot of people talking about the show. I loved the books growing up, and I think the show is doing a phenomenal job with a couple gripes. But that show introduces so many awesome elements that just give me inspiration of things to bring into a D&D campaign, both like item-wise, monster-wise, Planeswalker-esque. It's phenomenal. So
Very
that
cool.
is definitely a D&D inspiration TV show from 2020.
Now, who has our next question to tell around the campfire as we tend to our wounds and eat a snack to get some HP back?
I could probably pose a question. Being that recently over the last year we had 2 new books from WotC. I was wondering what official model or source book are people hoping that Wizards of the Coast produces next?
How about one that doesn't make me sad? That would be nice. No, I'm sure Icewind Dale is probably super great, actually.
I really
have not
enjoy
read
it.
that one because I know, Josh, you have it. And when you have a book, and there's always a chance that we might play in a campaign set around that setting, I try to avoid them. But no, I joke. So anybody buy any good official source book material?
Or
Oh, no, this is for the future.
Yeah,
This
like
is-
anybody got like something that they were like looking for. Like I'll jump in. Like I'm hoping that they come out with a Dark Sun. I've recently gotten a collection of books from somebody that had a couple novels based on the Dark Sun setting, and I've been reading through them, and I'm like, this would be cool to play in. Can we get an official module based on this? This would be great. But that's what I'm hoping for.
I like that it sounded like you got those books off the back of it.
I may or may not have got. I say a lot of things like that,
Josh was walking back to his car at a mall, and then there was just one of those big U-Hauls, and they were like, yeah, we were just delivering these speakers and these D&D books, but we had too many of them, so we'll sell them to you.
Oh, sure.
They're not stolen.
They're not. Oh, yeah. This is an honest, lucrative business opportunity. Yeah. So, anybody else?
I have loved that D&D has finally, it's been a while now, but that they finally took the plunge to make Magic the Gathering settings into campaign books. I love it. I think there's so much awesome lore and creatures to dive into. And so with that, I haven't recently played Magic the Gathering, but I have always kept an eye out for their new sets that come out. And one of the newest sets, Ikora, I think it's called Realm of the Behemoths or something along those lines, with just this plane with huge hulking monsters. I would love to see that one made in particular into a D&D campaign setting. I would love to turn to that monster manual part of the book and have all these big behemoth beasts that I could use in my D&D campaigns.
That totally made me lose my train of thought because I was thinking too much about that. One of the interesting things, I was actually watching a video last night from Ted from Nerd Immersion, who was basically doing his top 10 of things he wanted to see in 2020. So I'm going to steal some of those answers. Because I'm a DM, that's how this works. But like a DM focused book would be really interesting because I don't think we really get that. But at the same time, I kind of understand why we don't get that. So maybe I don't want it because I know we probably, as the 4 DMs here, probably won't get it, but that would be really good. Mm-hmm. So then in lieu of that, something akin to Tasha's or Xanathar's, I think would be fun. More of just kind of a catch-all of options across the board. That's my hope. I don't think it'll happen because we just got Tasha's, but...
Yeah, for me, I would say something that introduces more feats into the game. I know that Tasha's Cauldron of Everything had about 12 new feats, and not to hate on Tasha's, I think there's a lot of really cool stuff in there. We've talked about it on our podcast, but the feats are pretty underwhelming, and I think that one of the difficult parts about D&D is that for a lot of the character classes, the battles become pretty rote. If you're a barbarian, there's like a certain strategy that you tend to always follow. If you're a fighter, you can vary it up a little bit. But if you don't do like Battle Master, then you're sort of doing your multiple attacks, that type of thing. So I think different ways to change how characters can interact in combat. And I think that more feats would provide that versatility. So they give them a little bit more choice and dynamicness to the battle setting.
Very cool.
Great question, Josh. And you're looking like that health potion has helped you out a lot.
I feel things starting to knit. I think I could probably sit up here. Yeah. Yeah, it's working.
Well, I think that if we're lucky, maybe Neal can use or sing Song of Rest so we could get an extra hit die back. Neal, would you partake in a song?
Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur.
Yes, an extra D8.
Oh, that one hurt me, actually. I lost some health.
Sure.
Okay, so I will ask and immediately answer my own question. So I'm up, right?
You're
First
up.
off?
You're up. Go for it.
Okay,
I don't know
good.
why you're
What
acting
is
like
the
there's a
best?
structure to this, Neal. We're sitting around
You're
a
right.
campfire, resting. There's no structure here.
What is the best thing to come out of COVID for your games? There's a lot of bad. My game just kind of just went away for a long time, and then sputtered back into existence, and then sputtered away again. But we, we played yesterday for one of the first times in a really long time, and then didn't have someone show up because they were like, "I'm gonna go get tested." All that aside, the biggest benefit was pushing everybody to D&D Beyond. I have a lot of old school players. Like I said, these are the guys that got me in over 20 years ago, and they had already been playing. So their desire to use D&D Beyond was somewhat low, but now that they have, it's awesome because then no one's losing their sheets. I can just check. And then when we had someone out yesterday, literally just pulled up another tab and someone ran 2 characters, and it was great. But the whole thing with the healing reminded me that I can also push random to create an NPC. And that created Greg. Greg's real strong. Greg's not real smart. And for some reason, Greg is an Arcana Domain cleric.
Oh my gosh.
So he can heal for 1d8 -1.
Yeah, the random button is definitely not min-max random. It is truly random.
True random. Rolled stats. Randomly placed. Random background that I didn't even realize. I looked it up. And apparently Greg has a haunted past. So good for him. So yes, that is my question. What is the good that has come out of COVID for your games?
Well, I think for me, it just really shows that while it's always, for me personally, it's always been like a great pleasure to meet up with my friends, play in person, run club at school in person, that just because we have to adapt to a different setting doesn't mean that these D&D games have stopped being fun. I know that Josh and we've played in a campaign over Zoom. We did a D&D Adventure League type weekend that was run over Discord. That was fun. We went to a catacon and played games there, so that was fun. So it's all these ideas of like, oh, well, D&D can't be the same if it's not in person. And it turns out like you can get a lot of those great memories, fun moments, those types of things, even in the online setting. So I think it really showed that if there's a will, there's a way type of thing, and you could keep the game going, even like if you have to do it via distance.
And thanks so much that we have that technology.
Oh, yeah,
because
definitely.
without this technology, we wouldn't be doing it.
Oh,
Oh no,
exactly.
No, it'd be near impossible. So, I guess I would second what Matt said. I mean, the one thing is like I've become very self-conscious, being that I see myself on camera, and therefore I have to maintain this luxurious mustache like constantly. I mean, it's definitely up that game, so that's sticking around. But other than that, I mean, I guess it also has, in a broader aspect, being that it's on Roll20 and Zoom and things, like we've given a lot of artists and a lot of like D&D guild people definitely an opportunity to kind of, help them out. I've been seeing a lot of map makers, a lot of token makers, people who are putting out a lot of really cool content. I'm hoping that continues, even when people start like moving back towards in-person games. Like I'm just hoping that that we could still support those people because they've made some awesome stuff.
Yeah, I've gone through a lot of the similar struggles that everyone here has talked about with online gaming and the difficulties of that, but been thankful for it. For me, the best thing that has come out of difficulty over this past year is that COVID pushed me to finally do something that I've always said I wanted to do. And so over the summer, with nice weather, me and my D&D group went over to a friend's house to play outside, socially distanced, around a bonfire, so that we could meet in person, but do it in a safe way.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
honestly, it was done for, obviously, to be cautious and be doing things in a way that's safe, but it ended up being so great. Going into the night with the stars above us and the campfire, and seeing each other in this way that we've talked about doing in the past, it was like, man, even post-COVID, which I know we're all hoping is not too far away, I think I will certainly want to be continuing in the summertime, enjoying some D&D games outside around a campfire, because it was wonderful. Just like we're around a campfire right now, guys.
Oh, you died. Put your character sheet in the fire.
Can I see your character sheet for a second?
That'd be extremely epic.
All right, Matt, we're back to you. Do you have any questions for us?
I do. So 2021, a lot of time around the new year. It's all about New Year's resolutions. What new system do you want to play in 2021?
I'll answer here. It's not new, but it's one that I don't know well enough, and I've played before, and I really enjoyed it. I want to get back into the Fantasy Flight Star Wars RPG. I was able to run a campaign over a year ago with it, but honestly, The Mandalorian has gotten me excited about Star Wars again. Which is great. I love being excited about Star Wars again, and so I want to dive back into that and either play or run another game set in the Star Wars universe using that RPG system.
Cool. Josh, what about you?
Matt, I would like to try to run a Monster of the Week game.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I've played in one.
You bought the book for me 2 years ago.
I know. Yeah, I bought the book.
We still haven't played.
But I've been reading through it, and I've been kind of like outlining some notes and things like that. So at some point, wouldn't mind trying to run a game. It's wonderful. It's was it Powered by Apocalypse, and that has the whole fate system thing going on, and it's just it's such an open storytelling system that I find it a lot of fun.
Cool.
I find it a lot of fun. What about you there, Neal?
So there's one I have, and I probably won't play it for a while, but I did purchase the Green Knight RPG system that's supposed to be based off the movie that's coming out later in 2021.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I just want to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting concept to see companies invest that time and effort. Like, it's an actual, like, it's basically the starter set box, but uses a different system. And I'm probably going to wait to play it until I have watched the movie it's based off of. I've thumbed through it, but then I'm like, this feels weird. It's based on a thing I haven't seen, so where's my attachment? But trying that out just to see, again, what that looks like. Other people trying their hand, not just doing a lot of 5th edition stuff, because you start to see more of that as Hasbro and Wizards makes more deeper connections with other companies, but just the idea that someone would wholesale or whole cloth create something different. Mm-hmm. So that's mine.
Cool.
And what about you, Matt?
Now, for me, this is my problem, and maybe the listeners of the Dungeons Masters block can help me out. I just want to play in a very anime-influenced TTRPG, and I'm struggling to find it out because I love D&D, but sometimes I just want to be Goku and I want to fire like a huge, Kamehameha wave type of thing, and you don't do that in D&D. I want to get knocked down 400 times, but I keep just like getting angry and reviving myself. So I want something that is like majorly anime inspired. I know you could probably just build the D&D campaign around like a anime flavored over the top type of game. But yeah, some sort of like anime RPG I think would be a game that I would like to play in 2021. Now, Josh, you look like you have a question you would like to ask. What's the next question in our 12 questions?
Well, seeing how we were talking about what we want to do in the future, one of the things I was going to ask is with Tasha's that came out, as well as a few other sources and such, is anybody going to try to play a new player character or a character class that they haven't done before in the upcoming year?
I talked about this on the podcast. I want to play a barbarian because I play characters that get knocked out basically in one punch every time. And I finally had a chance to play a barbarian, and it was so nice to deal tons of damage, take half damage from everything, and I felt like a boss just being the hero of this campaign. So yeah, I want to play some type of barbarian and maybe use one of those new character classes, either from Tasha's or dip back into Xanathar's. I know there's a barbarian that I think literally just can't die. Like when they die, they do get back up at some point in time because they are just driven by battle that much. So yeah,
I think that's the Zealot.
Something like that. Yeah, so some sort of very barbarian focused character. That's who I want to play.
Very cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a chance at the Artificer. Just to have that in practice rather than just in paper.
Sure.
There you go, making weird stuff.
Do you want to be the turret one, or do you want to be like the one that gets the armor and stuff?
No, turret, and I'll just call myself Torbjorn, and then it'll just be Overwatch, I guess.
There you go.
I think that I would like to try a class that I've never actually gotten the chance to play, which happens when you're the forever DM. But I'd love to try out a Warlock. After fighting 2020, the Beast of 2020, I feel like I'm going to need a patron to help me out with the next one.
What happens if your patron was 2020?
It won't be.
No, it won't be.
Just get a new one.
There you go. I wouldn't mind trying out a bard. I happen to, shy away from it. I have shied away from it just because I'm not exactly the most musically inclined, nor am I, oftentimes, as Matt can attest, me playing Roland in his game, as elegant a speaker, or one to be able to diplomatically get out of a situation.
Josh, you sing almost every podcast.
Yes, but sing well enough to be tolerated? You barely tolerate me, Matt.
That is a kind description. I don't tolerate it. But anyway.
So yeah, no, I'm looking maybe try a bard.
Cool.
So.
All right, guys, my next question is, what was the best RPG-related purchase that you made during 2020? And I'll just kick it off and say, this was the year that I decided to, I haven't made the dive to purchasing a 3D printer, but I have started to purchase some more specific 3D printed minis from shops on Etsy, and I have been super pleased with how cheap they are for what you're getting and the amount of glorious detail in some of these minis that are being made. Cool. It really just, I'm excited painting these things and looking forward to one day being able to use them at a gaming table.
No, there's a lot of really nice quality ones that are coming out now. So, and especially Etsy. I've been cruising Etsy's that site great, as well. Yeah.
What about you, Josh?
I will say, like, my best, and I'm using it in my D&D club with the kids right now, is the Rime of the Frost Maiden, the Icewind Dale adventure. There is a lot of interesting story arcs and things like that, but the biggest and most surprising thing is just the kids in like a short 2-hour span of time like really connect with a lot of the characters, and it's not all about battle. Not giving away any spoilers or anything, but the creators of this really did work in a lot of investigation, a bit of mystery, a lot of character connection and story plot hooks there, and that was, I guess, the greatest thing I've purchased this year, as far as D&D related. So definitely would give that book 2 thumbs up.
Awesome.
Well, of course you should. Celeste helped write that book.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
So Yeah, that's why she's not here. She doesn't want to be that close to a campfire. She's just hanging off in the frozen
She didn't
north.
die. She headed in a different
No.
direction.
Sequestered in her tower, writing new tomes, new adventures.
See you guys. It's too hot down here. I'm gonna head north. I'm a what is it? People who fly south for the winter, snowbirds. You know, she's a sunbird. She just I'm going north. It's too hot.
Well, she did write that book about dinosaurs, so she probably had to go to Chult or something for research.
True. Dino World.
Neal, what do you think?
So mine is the D&D Death Saves die. It's from the company Death Saves. Surprise. Just a zinc alloy die that's like 30 millimeters across. It literally here on the page says, we recommend not rolling the die on glass or wooden tables or antiques that you don't want damaged.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just a huge D20 that comes in its own little tin, and then there are skulls and there are D&D ampersands. That's it. So and then it denotes the 1, the 20, and a small dot for the 9 in case you had a ring of protection. So it is the ultimate death saves die for whenever that comes up at your table.
Very cool.
Nice. Matt, what about you there?
I think for me, I have switched from buying D&D source books on paper and converting them to the digital versions. I just find that with using D&D Beyond, it ends up being a lot more useful to have the digital versions of those. So like, I like having the physical books, but at the same time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 40 pounds of D&D textbooks, that type of thing like that. So again, the way that I DM and the way that I play, especially in 2020, is digital. So it's great to be able to use those resources in the digital setting. So yeah, books in digital format. Not that exciting of an answer. Not a big old D20 that will destroy your family heirloom.
We have all learned the value of practical after fighting 2020.
This is true.
Neal, do you have a question for us?
I do. I was debating between the two I have left, and what I'll go with is basically the reverse version of Matt's question. He looked forward, I'll look back. What is something that you played that's not D&D that you really enjoyed? And so it could be a board, and again, I'll answer my own question to show that it doesn't have to be pen and paper. It could be a board game, because in December of 2019, my wife and I and another couple started playing Pandemic Legacy.
Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh.
So that's a thing that we started doing as all of this hit, and we basically kind of tried to play about once a month to stay with like the timeline, because basically you play through a year in the game as you rip things up and add and do all these things. And at one point we basically set up like makeshift streamer setups, because while they live really close, there were times where we wanted to be more cautious than others, and basically we had an iPad on a tripod and then the laptop facing us, so like we could cast the board to them while looking at us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was definitely a full bore Pandemic Legacy experience, and we have like one more game to play, and then I already bought season 2. So that's
Very cool.
That's my answer.
How about you, Matt?
Games that I've played during 2020
That are not D&D.
and it just has to be things that I've done.
Well, I mean, if the theory would be that you enjoyed, but it doesn't have to be.
Sure. Well, I will probably admit that I haven't played really any other systems. Maybe like one other system, but I didn't like it. So sorry, Dungeon. What's the name of that game, Josh? Dungeon
Crawler.
Dungeon Crawl Classics or something like that. Yeah, not a huge fan of that one.
DCC.
But I can see where people like that. No, I think that a fun game for me that kind of really carried me through a big part of 2020, Stardew Valley, because it's not a tabletop RPG. It's just a farm simulator game, but I also feel like you could totally integrate aspects of a Stardew Valley into a TTRPG style game. I think that a lot of times we're always focused on like, let's explore all the dungeons and save the world. But I think designing a campaign where you're just a person or a group of people surviving in a small town and maybe going on little mini adventures and helping people out, I think that would be a fun campaign setting. But for me, I haven't done that yet, but I do find that the game Stardew Valley was a great source of entertainment for me during 2020.
For me, video game wise, I got to play the Final Fantasy VII remake, which took me a long time.
How was that?
I loved it. I was also disappointed to find out that it's only the first disc of the game.
Sure.
But nostalgia, first of all, was skyrocketed for that game. But they did an amazing job. It's a great game. It took me forever to get it because with 2020, like it was not in stores anywhere, and I wanted the actual disc version. I didn't want to download it, but I loved it. And then as far as other games, Jackbox games were so helpful for playing online with people, some kind of game that was fun and lighthearted and a lot of laughter. So Jackbox for the win.
Josh, what about you?
Oh, let's see here. Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as Matt, where it's like I didn't really play. I mean, I don't mind the DCC as much. I played that when I was asked by Dank Dungeons to do a little podcast thing, and it's a different feel. I mean, definitely a different feel than 5e, but you know, overall, I think like Red Dead Redemption 2 was like my go-to. Like that definitely got me through 2020. Just playing as Arthur Morgan and bounty hunting missions and all that kind of stuff, and like you're kind of like this anti-hero, which I mean, even if you try to play as a hero in D&D, oftentimes you are the anti-hero in some aspect. I did like it, and I got to play with Matt, my good friend Tyler, and we kind of crashed the game a couple times.
We play the online version of the game, and we all started at the same time, so we all modeled our characters around the action film star Charles Bronson. I mean, he's long departed now, but you could go back and look up like Death Wish or Death Wish 2 or Death Wish 3.
Our posse is called Death Wish 6.
Our posse is Death Wish 6. So yeah, we all look like Charles Bronson. So it's been a fun way to unite some college friends back together.
So I would have definitely made my character look like Action Bronson, and if you don't know who that is, you need to go find that.
Okay. Gosh, what is that from? Because it sounds so familiar.
Oh, he's an extreme. I mean, he's gotten really thin lately, but he was just a massive dude, just living his best life. And he has a cooking show that is colorful in language, to say the least.
Ugly Delicious, is that what it is?
Yes, that's the marketing word that they use, because that's not the word that they use on the show.
Gotcha. And yeah, I'm looking at a picture of him right now. Our characters are not modeled after Action Bronson. But he would be a good addition to Death Wish 6, the Bronson-themed gang. I guess what do they call them? It's probably not a gang. It's probably like a cohort or something like that. So,
all right, Neal. You got another question for us?
Yes. So what book inspired you the most this past year? It could be for your game or just in general. So comic, fiction, nonfiction, anything along those lines. I'm trying to think of what my answer is, because I definitely tried to read more books. You know what? One of the best books that I read this past year is The World or Life According to Mr. Rogers. And it's a pretty small book put together by his estate, or put together and then approved by his estate, that are just quotes from him living his life. And it's pretty spectacular. It's a really short read, so I didn't try and like crush through it. It's one of those ones where, like, while as short as it is, it doesn't make sense to just be like, I read it in a night. Like, that's not, the content of the book doesn't lend itself to that. So if you do pick it up, again, I want to. It's the weirdest form factor. It's only like six. Like it's a square book, but I would say get it and read a little bit of it a day, and your life will be better.
Very cool.
I would like to play in that campaign that inspired
Indeed.
you.
Yes.
For me, I'm gonna honestly a couple of these answers are gonna tie back into my excitement for Star Wars. I read another Thrawn book, a Timothy Zahn's Thrawn book this year, and I would love to make a Thrawn-like villain, either in a Star Wars campaign or in a D&D campaign, because Thrawn makes a great tactical, intelligent villain to go up against.
Josh, what about you?
I would have to say I definitely re-upped my comic book subscription. Like I have a file. We have a pull box at the local comic book store. And I would have to say Rat Queens.
Correct.
Rat Queens and Skull Kickers from Jib Zub. Two that
Did we just become best friends?
Right, I know. Oh man, those two are the mainstays, but just reading through it, it's okay, serious high fantasy, yeah, joke, or modern reference, or unicorn just randomly crashes through the ballroom. Why? Because why not?
Okay, so I'm going to tell on myself. I have spent whatever it took to obtain every comic cover version of Skull Kickers that exists. Like the Emerald City Comic Con exclusive, there's one that has a cat on it, and I also have several that are there's a blank cover one, and every time every time I would go to Gen Con, I would have Jim Zub do them, draw on them, and
nice.
custom art pieces.
Yeah, no, I just picked up two more, and I'm just I gotta read these.
Well, for me, one thing that I guess you might find out about me if you, talk to me a little bit, I don't actually read a whole lot of fantasy stuff. I like the fantasy genre. I try to read a whole variety of different books and things like that. And I really like the Wooster and Jeeves series. It's by P.G. Wodehouse. And if you haven't read any of these books, they're super funny. I would actually read an audio or listen to an audiobook version of them. They are really amazing. The whole story is based around a rich person who's pretty dumb, and he gets into all sorts of different wacky scenarios. And the person that always gets him out of these scenarios is his butler named Jeeves. And Jeeves is about the smartest person in the entire world. And he's very humble, but he is the mastermind behind everything. There's an entire book where they're trying to get a silver cow creamer, and all the shenanigans behind obtaining the silver cow creamer is really insane. So if you like something that's silly and lighthearted and just very, very well written with strong back and forth dialogue, I would suggest any of the Wooster and Jeeves novels by P.G. Wodehouse.
And then
Very
apparently you can watch the 1990 comedy starring Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry.
Yeah, I heard that maybe that's not as good and the production value is pretty low, but yeah, check out the audiobooks. They're super fun.
Oh man, Stephen Fry. I also read Stephen Fry's Mythos this year. That's great inspiration as well. Matt, I believe that you have another question for us because I'm seeing that written all over your face.
You must be, yes. Yes, and of course.
But listen, guys, I think we all have to ask one more question, then we gotta get that long rest because we're all beat. So let's make this the last round of questions from each of us.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do this. Would you rather? Get ready for this. All right. Would you rather be a really, really short Goliath or a really, really tall dwarf?
You're throwing a different question at us.
Yeah, I am. Because the other question was really deep, and I didn't know if I had an answer for it myself. So, would you rather be a really, really short Goliath or a really, really tall dwarf in your next D&D campaign?
Short Goliath.
And why?
And I say that because, I think that would just be hilarious, just kind of to go through that and be like, hey, I'm a Goliath. and then be like, you get all this kind of flack for, oh, you're not really a Goliath.
You're too short. You're the Rudy of Goliaths.
Exactly. And you got to like prove yourself. And like, I think that's a bit of fun.
Yeah. Try to prove yourself within Goliath culture, society, that type of thing.
Yeah.
That made me think of Thrones and Bones from Blue Anders, because that's basically they're a half giant in there. But I would want to be a tall dwarf, because if it worked for that first D&D movie, it can work for me.
Is that the D&D movie that came out in 2000 or 2002?
Yeah, and the dude who's playing the dwarf is like easily 6 foot and just like towering over other people.
Do they explain why?
No, never.
No, of course. I feel like a lot of things were probably not explained with that movie.
I'm fine with being a short Goliath if I get to role play as Josh's short Goliath brother in this campaign, or I'll be a tall dwarf as long as I can play as Neal's brother in this D&D campaign. That's where my answer is. But I definitely don't want to be related to Matt and whatever he chooses.
Sure, yeah, don't be related to me at all. I don't want to be your brother anyway.
No.
You can't see
glad we're
the
on the same
tear
page.
streaming down my face because it's a podcast. So,
It's just the wood smoke.
I think tall dwarf would be pretty cool. I think there would be this backstory of similar to elf, where you're trying to like survive at the North Pole. You're working with the other Christmas elves, but you're just too tall, and you're also Will Ferrell. So yeah, I think that there would be an interesting story where you just don't fit into the caves and things like that. So I'm going tall dwarf.
You must be this short to enter the mine.
Yeah, you're always hunched over, that type of thing.
Oh, my back. Oh.
Yeah, you don't get chosen to go on the different expedition crews because they don't want to build a ceiling tall enough for your tall dwarven head. So yeah,
You get
tall dwarf.
You get called into Santa's workshop HR and be like, you've made these toys too big.
Well, I guess now we're going into
Oh my gosh,
the
we've
dwarf
sent-
is with Santa. I guess
sent
so.
you guys
Oh,
on a rabbit
I'm
hole.
sorry. You said elf, and that got me thinking about something else. I have that.
Josh, what great question do you have?
Oh, great! Great question. You put this on me. We'll go with this heartfelt one here. Most uplifting moment as a DM or player character in 2020. And I could start this one off. Again, playing Rime of the Frost Maiden with my kids at school. And it's the third rotation. I had this group of boys, and I've had them before. And usually it's, hey guys, we're playing heroes. Okay, well, we're heroes, and we're going to hack and slash our way across this adventure, and well, look, the town burned down. Well, but we got the job done. And evil was stamped out for yes, but you burned the town down. But actually, they threw me for a loop because in one of the adventures, you have to find these small little like elementals called I think they're called chewingas.
Chewingas. I used chewingas in 2020, and
Yeah.
chewingas are great.
Yeah, this small little like dressed like they got like a little pine cone coat
Yeah.
or something like that, little mask
Little
and stuff.
elementals.
And
They're great.
and these, and I'm expected, like, it starts off like it's usually, we're going to catch it, we're going to grab it, we're going to, swords drawn, and all of a sudden they kind of like, well, wait, this isn't working. Okay, let's try something else. So they try befriending him, and they try, like, gifting stuff and this, and, seizing on a moment, I, like, show them, this alleyway there where there's a whole bunch of chewingas that are hiding out because, like, people are, like, trying to, like, trap them and hunt them down because they consider them pests. And these guys all of a sudden like start building like walls of protection around this little like chewinga encampment and things like that. And again, just not expecting it from this crew, just threw me for a loop. And the fact that it happened right before the Christmas break kind of like also was like a little, pattering on the heartstrings and things like that. But I think that was probably the most uplifting. The kids really did care about these little imaginary characters, and
That's cute.
When we played a game afterwards, like they were like, "Oh, I want to go back and check on them," and it's like, "Okay, well, yeah, they're doing great, and they really seem appreciative to see you and things like that." So yeah, no, that would be mine.
I played a game with some pretty new players, and we had our first death in the party, which with new players can always be a scary thing. Honestly, beyond the reaction of the player whose character just died, I have seen it not handled well from the other players. Like, I've seen a lot of, all right, they're dead, let's just move on, like, without, like, any sort of recognition. And so one of these players that, like, immediately just kind of started the ball rolling in setting up a funeral for this character and honoring them, which got the other players into doing the same thing. And it was really encouraging seeing that coming from a newbie group of players. And this one particular player who's a teenager that I DM for, we've had lots of conversations about D&D and role playing. And so it's just kind of this cool moment to see him, like, without any prodding, like, get up and shine and do a thing that was honoring both to the character, but more importantly to the player who played the character.
Very nice.
Neal, how about you?
Well, I was trying to think about it, and because I didn't play a whole bunch, I think that hurts a little bit. But I think one of the most interesting things and the nice things, and what I would hope would be part of it being how I conduct myself, is that one of my players, who's one of the younger ones, quit playing with a group because he didn't agree with how they were playing. And it just felt good to know that he was empowered to make that decision. Despite it being his friends that he was playing the game with, he knew as the DM he wasn't having fun, which in turn means he can't help them have fun. And so then he stepped away from that game. I know in my younger days, I don't know that was a decision I would have made. Like, you feel tied to the group and you're just like, well, we're just going to suffer through, which is obviously never the right choice to make in those scenarios without either addressing it or just stepping away. So I guess in a way it's super uplifting, but just to know that he's empowered enough to just be like, yeah, I'm out. I can't do that. This isn't working for us.
Yeah, it's a different type of uplifting, but still really important.
What about you there, Matt?
Well, not to make a plug for our podcast, Detentions of the Dragons, which I am going to do anyway. We typically
Neal,
once a year. Yeah, you can edit it out. The best part. No, we typically once a year will interview people from Game to Grow, and they are an organization, a nonprofit in Washington that is focused on using D&D in therapeutic settings, that type of thing, like that. So yeah, and when we have like Adam Johns and Adam Davis on, this year we also got to visit with Dr. Elizabeth Kilmer, and to hear about how they are working with all sorts of different teenagers and now adults, and the types of trainings that they have produced during COVID to help like train other people to incorporate therapeutic practices within the D&D setting or within the tabletop RPG setting is super awesome. And there's all sorts of different skills and classes available for those who are like classically trained therapists, to teachers, to people that are just trying to incorporate D&D into their communities, that type of thing. So you talk to them and you hear these stories about what they're doing, and those are really, really inspiring. So if you want to be super inspired and you don't have your own good story, go listen to that episode. We released it a few weeks ago. And yeah, your heart will palpitate because it makes you feel good all over.
So, I don't know. Well, I know how long I can keep it. It's a cantrip. We can keep this campfire going forever. But what is the last question we have? Mitch, it's up to you.
Well, we just fought 2020. I mean, we've taken some time. We've taken some health potions. But, I mean, we still are covered in the blood of the beast. But, you know, I have never seen any creature, any beast just like that. I don't know. Have you guys come across that? Like, it had, like, resistances and powers like I've never seen before.
Well, it reminded me of 1997, but, I mean, that was a completely different year. Like, a completely different year of different name, different tactics. Oh, my goodness.
So, I mean, as adventurers, we understand that there are different categories of monsters. And so I was wondering, like, what do you guys think? What kind of monster type that was that we just fought of 2020? You guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally. Now, my default answer would be I took the DNA from the most evil animals on the planet and combined them together. And it turns out it was man all along. So if you're a Futurama fan.
Humanoid.
Humanoid. No, I think if you were to describe 2020 as a monster, it is definitely an ooze because number one, it's if you get sucked into it, it tries to destroy you. And I mean, I'm not trying to make light of 2020 because we have lost a lot of people to the COVID-19 pandemic. And that was unfortunately a consequence. But from like more of an emotional level, I feel like an ooze is slow moving. And if you get trapped in it, like you get trapped in it and it slowly digests you from the inside. So the best way to work against or survive 2020 was to sort of keep your distance. It's going to slowly approach you, but don't get like caught up in a lot of the drama and a lot of the excitement that went along with 2020. So I think for us, you know, that gelatinous cube only has a move speed of 15 feet. So if you can keep moving 15 feet away from it every 6 seconds, I think that's how we were able to really survive this ooze-based monster.
I don't know if I would say it's like one creature. I kind of thought of it as being like a whole pack of kobolds. Just like a whole bloody slew of kobolds. Because every single time, like you're making your way down that year-long tunnel or hallway, and you just kept tripping over traps. Like first it was like a thing of murder hornets, and then it's another thing. And again, I like Matt, not to try to make light, because there's a lot of bad stuff that happened this last year. COVID, it's just awful. But it just seemed like every single time we just get a little further down. Oh, there's another thing. Oh, there's another thing. Oh, goodness. And it's just like they're rolling with advantage because of pack tacking. Mm-hmm. It's just never ending. So I would say it's just like dealing with a whole bunch of kobolds there. That'd be mine. What about you there, Neal?
So I'm going to be hopeful in my answer in that it was an aberration.
Oh.
And hopefully it is a one-off and it cannot procreate in any way, shape, or form.
Sure.
There are no more. This was the only one. So my deepest hope is that it is but an aberration.
You know, I guess my answer has some hope in there as well. That I actually thought aberration at first too, because there are a lot of things that I look at that beast of 2020 and go, I don't fully understand this. But I think I have come to the conclusion that it was a fae creature, because I felt and saw so many high emotions over this past year, and it seemed to affect everyone. And that, of course, went in the negative route, but also there were a lot of uplifting moments in humanity. I remember almost every episode of Some Good News bringing me to tears, seeing how 2020 brought out the best in people. And I think we've seen a lot of both of that. And I'm hoping that as we go into 2021, we see a lot more of that best. We see a lot more of people caring for each other, and that's what I'm hoping for. But in case 2021 is a greater beast, my friends, I think we better sharpen our swords and get a long rest so that we are prepared for it, so that we can all go to battle with it together.
Agreed.
Indeed.
Yes, I don't think 2021 will be nearly as taxing and dangerous. I'm expecting it's probably just a fart monster, just going to fart all over us, but we'll survive that too.
And on the note of fart monster.
On the note of fart monster.
Let's hit the hay, guys. Let's get some sleep. Let's get our health points back, for tomorrow is a new day.
Good night, Neal.
Long rest.
Do we all say good night to each other?
Yeah.
Good night,
Good night,
Neal.
Matt.
Good night, Mitch.
Good night, John
Good night,
Boy.
Matt.
Good night, Josh.
Woo! Who's
Good night,
John Boy?
Josh.
He's been here the whole time.
Hey guys, I wanted to talk too. I got some really important.
Jeez, you
John,
guys just
shut
happened
up.
to ignore me.
And good night to all of you blockheads. We'll see you in 2021.